God bless you. Welcome to the Stephen Smith Show. Glad to be before you on another night, Memphis, Tennessee, and all the surrounding areas. That's Memphis, Shelby County, all in Tennessee, northern Mississippi, Olive Branch, South Haven by Hellia. I don't know how far it goes down in there. And then now our new viewers from the Little Rock Hot Springs area. God bless you. Welcome to the Stephen Smith Show. I last week I think I want to I kind of start out because a lot of my show is based in Memphis, so I react to Memphis's death. I want to give my condolences to the family of the late former state representative Rufus Jones. He owned Jones Big Star. I'm praying for that family. The late Senator Reginald Tate. Praying for that family. Again, I went to the wake for oh gosh, Pastor Melvin, why am I mixing this last name? It'll come to me in just a second, but we've had several notable deaths in the area. Praying for those families. Of course, the families that were affected by that accident, the Melvin Rogers, man, getting over 50 sometimes isn't fun. But the other alternative is not as attractive. The family that had the deaths from the car accident on 269. Just so many needs, and you don't even go to national news to find out about a thing. I was driving over here and almost caught a doze because I had something to talk about tonight. Being verbose and being the talker. You always kind of have something to say. But the Lord dropped something in my spirit to share with you that the enemy is after the promise of God on your life. The enemy is after the promise of God on your life. I heard a quote by the late Dr. Miles Monroe this morning, and it almost wrecked me. I almost had a wreck from that too. He said that his future is God's past. My future is God's past. Your future is God's past. And so where you get that from, Smith? You go to Isaiah, I think 46:10, where God says that I declared the end from the beginning. So God has spoken the conclusion of the matter before you even get started on the track. So maybe you're wondering why God doesn't bite his fingernails and God's not all uptight about your situation, because God already knows the conclusion of the matter. God already knows the end of the story. My brother and my sister over there in Arkansas, my brothers here in Memphis, Tennessee, thank you, my brother, Mark Harris, you and your wife. Your comments this morning really boosted me, because sometimes when you're out here and I don't have anything, I'm not trying to monetize my market out there yet. I'm trying to get you all to know me and find a use for me, and I'm ministering, trying to find your needs before I'm trying to pull a lever on you and try to monetize. Thank you, Mark Harris. I think I have a lot of people. I must have the largest collection of Nicodemus type listeners, because everybody comes to meet me somewhere when they're all by themselves. They never say anything. They never they never share, but they share with me and tell me that I brought them through this tough season in their life. And I guess we can get so caught up with likes and substantiation and affirmation and everything else that we miss the purpose. God said this word, freely you have received, freely give. So that's for that matter. So I just have to wait and know that I'm walking in line, hook, sync with purpose tonight. Because I want you to know that the enemy's after the purpose, after the promise of God on your life. If I had nodded on my way over here, all the promises that God had made me, which were yea and amen, would have been negated. The enemy has an objective to ruin your design and negate your purpose. My brother, my sister, God sent you here for an intrinsic purpose. That purpose setting forth. He wants you to find out the reason. You know, I hear that all the time. They say that there are two great important days in a man's life and in a woman's life. One is the day that you were born. And the second is that they say the day that you discover why you were born. Folks, the enemy is after the promise of God on your life. You know how you grew up in church, and you know, the old women used to come up to you after church and say, child, you're going to be something. The Lord showed me you in a dream. I see God taking you places. And you've had all these positive prophecies come in your life, and yet you've dealt with a whole life full of bumps and bruises, ups and downs, and twists and turns. It's because the enemy's after the promise of God on your life. Folks, we serve a God, that doesn't pay necessarily by the week. He pays at the end. So there are times that it seems in our lives that the enemy, that we're fighting an uphill battle, and the enemy must be beating us 24-0. We must have struck out at every turn. We're coming to the ninth inning, and our team's far behind. But the enemy's after the promise of God on your life. Maybe that would explain why you've been in skirmish after skirmish, bump after bump, bruise after bruise. Maybe that's why they saw you lose the car. Preach, Steve. I'm getting my flow. Maybe that's when they saw you lose the spouse and lose the house. Maybe that's why they saw your ministry hit the doldrums, and people thought that you had just had, when you said that God called you, you had just had some wild sign by God, or you stayed up late eating pork chops, because you couldn't be called by God and your ministry be in a wrecked place like it is right now. But folks, I'm coming to bring a word that will resurrect your dreams, hopes, and aspirations on tonight. The enemy's after the promise of God on your life. That's why you've had the attack on your life. That's why it seemed like you can't go 2 steps to the left before something hits you. Preach, Steve. And you can't go 2 steps to the right. You got, what was that thing when we grew up talking about last night before, 24 robbers were at my door. That seems to be every day of your life, because the enemy's after the promise of God on your life. I mean, you got to think that I'm the child of a mother that could have gave me up a long time ago when she was under 8. Well, she was still in school, hadn't graduated. And, they didn't play that at Booker T. Washington High School, walking around school pregnant. No, that doesn't happen. But the enemy was even then after the promise of God on my life, when she had to go before the church and be humiliated. To be humiliated, apologizing to people as if that she had to make it up to them about bringing me into this world. But the enemy even then was after the promise of God on my life. Folks, how about this? Before Jeremiah, you are formed in the belly. I knew you and ordained you to be a prophet. Folks, before your mama met your daddy, before your granddad had threw a little rap on your grandmama, God had ordained you to be a prophet. Even then, God had to design. Again, as Dr. Miles Monroe said, is that our future is really God's past.